In this video, I'm putting head to head my favorite medium price point laptop, the Acer Predator Helios 300 versus the Asus TUF A15, the new kid on the block with the AMD Ryzen 7 4800H. Let's see which one is the best for video editing, graphic design, and photography, coming at you right now. If you're new to the channel, my name is Benji Kaiser. This is where you're going to find the best tech and tools for creative professionals. So if that sounds like you're going to place, consider subscribing and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of the future videos. Also, if you're curious about the exact specs and pricing of either of these laptops as we're heading through the video, you can head down into the description below and click one of those links. Now, if you do use that link, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you, and that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Also, if you want to get a discount on the Asus TUF A15, you can use the discount code BEN3 over at Computer Upgrade Kings to snag a discount on this laptop or any other laptops over on their site. Let's jump into the video. Jumping into the build quality right off the bat, the Acer stands out due to not only its aluminum top cover, which the TUF A15 has as well, but the Helios 300 also has an aluminum keyboard deck. Otherwise, both laptops are built very well. They have strong hinges that open and close smoothly with minimal screen flex, which to me is a sign of a thoughtful, well-crafted laptop. Both laptops come with nice keyboard decks that have good key travel with a clean, spongy press, and they are quiet while typing. I will say that I prefer the layout of the Asus TUF A15. I am a big left shift key user, and I like that it is a full-length shift key that is placed right where my finger expects to find it. The TUF comes with Aurora RGB keyboard lighting that can be quickly changed directly on the keyboard deck. The Acer does not have RGB lighting, but it is bright and helpful for identifying the keys while working in the dark. Both trackpads have good touch sensitivity and gestures. However, I prefer the click embedded in the trackpad rather than having the separate right and left clicks on the keyboard deck. Both work very well, but personal preferences win out on this one. Both keyboard decks feature control of the fan's turbo and quiet modes. The Acer has a dedicated button, and the Asus TUF features it under the F5 function key. This makes it nice to have the ability to boost the fan or slip it into quiet mode if you're in a meeting or classroom. Each laptop totes a full HD matte display with a refresh rate of 144 Hz. Both have 720p webcams along the top bezel and speakers beneath the keyboard deck for good sound. Not excellent, but they will get the job done. Color accuracy is one of the areas I will have to give some extra credo to the Helios 300. The Helios 300 comes with 93% sRGB and 60% Adobe RGB. The TUF A15, however, comes with 66% sRGB and 49% Adobe RGB. The Helios 300 is the clear winner for color gamut range. However, if you are a video editor that uses external monitor, like me, you can easily overcome this by picking up a color accurate monitor to do your color grading on. I'll link a few options in the description below. So if you're going to choose between the Acer Predator Helios 300 or the Asus TUF 15 on color accuracy alone, it really depends on if you have a dual monitor setup or you're going to be working directly on the laptop for the time that you're using it. If you're someone that likes to be on the go, then weight and battery life are important to you. The Asus TUF A15 weighs in at 5.7 pounds and has a 90 watt-hour battery that gets you about 6 hours of web browsing and maybe 2 to 3 hours for design and video editing. The Acer Predator Helios 300 weighs in at about 5.1 pounds with a 58 watt-hour battery that might get you about 3 hours of web browsing time. And for design and video editing, you're looking at maybe about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. Not really the best battery life, so the Asus TUF is going to make the better on-the-go laptop. Finally, for the usability portion of the video, let's pull the ports up on the screen so you can check it out. I always discuss the ports and the fact of what do you need this laptop for? Not what is everybody saying is the right ports you should have on your laptop, but what does your day-to-day workflow look like? What ports do you use? That is what you want to consider when looking at the different port options between these two laptops. All right, now that we know the usability of these laptops, let's check out the performance. The Acer Predator Helios 300 comes with the i7-9750H processor, the NVIDIA GTX 1660 Ti, 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and 256 gigs of solid-state hard drive. Whereas the Asus TUF A15 comes with the AMD Ryzen 7 4800H, the NVIDIA GTX 1660 Ti, 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and 512 gigs of solid-state hard drive. Okay, that is great, but how do these specs stack up to real life? For graphic design, these specs are wonderful, and you will experience a smooth workflow in Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator, and other graphic design programs like Sketch or the Affinity Suite. But what about video editing? I'm going to use Premiere Pro for this test. I will place a 9-minute 4K clip into Premiere Pro and export it out at 4K full quality YouTube settings. The Acer Predator Helios 300 can accomplish this in 7 minutes and 21 seconds, whereas the Asus TUF A15 does this export in 11 minutes and 2 seconds. Now, if you want to save a little time and export out to 1080p, you can do that export in 2 minutes and 52 seconds on the Helios 300, and on the TUF A15, you can accomplish the 1080p export in 3 minutes and 52 seconds. Due to the quick sync feature that Intel benefits from when using Premiere Pro, the Intel processor in the Acer Predator Helios 300 can export the file faster than the Ryzen processor in the TUF A15. However, in DaVinci Resolve, the Asus TUF had far better export times. It was able to catch up on the export times by exporting the 4K file to 4K settings in 6 minutes and 37 seconds and to 1080p in 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Since they both have processors that reach very similar clock speeds and share the same GPU, the export times out of DaVinci Resolve were nearly identical. So as you see, awesome export time out of DaVinci Resolve. 6 minutes and 37 seconds. That's super up to par with the latest i7-9750H, the i7-10750H, so on and so forth. And really solid 1080p export times out of both Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. But what happened here? Well, QuickSync happened. But recently, and thanks to our amazing YouTube friends over at Hardware Canucks, we have learned about Adobe's new encoding process called HEVC hardware encoding. So what this does is it allows the hardware of the GPU to be used to help export out of Premiere Pro. So let's say you have a GTX 1660 Ti inside of your computer. Well, that will now help with the export time when using any processor, whether it be Ryzen or Intel. So going back here, we have a 19-minute export out of the Ryzen 9 3900X. This is a desktop processor. And then when the hardware encoding is turned on, we have a 7-minute and 52-second export. That means that we are seeing a more than twice as fast export with the hardware encoding turned on. So with that in mind, with my export times on the Asus TUF, and I wish I would have done this, but I learned about this just after I had sent the computer back to Asus, or to Computer Upgrade Kings. I thank them so much for letting me use that computer, run some tests on it. I found out about this. So this is totally my fault. I'm sure some of y'all already knew about this and are gonna just laugh at me in the comment section, but I can't know everything. With that in mind, however, that means that this export time, if we're following the data correctly, is gonna be around a 5-minute export time. Maybe 5.5, 6 minutes at the most, which means the Ryzen 7 4800H in the TUF A15 is going to be just as fast as all these other Intel processors. If you're looking for a laptop with excellent export times out of Premiere Pro, as well as an all aluminum top cover and keyboard deck with great color accuracy, then the Acer Predator Helios 300 is going to be your buy. But if you're looking for a slightly more affordable laptop with great build quality, good export times out of Premiere Pro, great export times out of DaVinci Resolve, and excellent multi-core performance from Ryzen's latest 4000 series processor, then the Asus TUF A15 is a great buy for you. If you're curious about the exact specs or pricing of either of these laptops, you can head down into the description below and click one of those links. Also, if you want to save a little bit of money, you can head on over to Computer Upgrade Kings and use the discount code BEN3 for the Asus TUF A15 or any laptop over there on their site. I'm Benji Kaiser. I thank you so much for tuning in to this episode, and I'll see you here on the next one.